Hello, welcome back. Thank you for joining me. So this is a big one for me because after 10 years of being with Samsung, I'm switching to iPhone. Stay tuned to see how that goes. If you've been with me on this channel since I started it, you'll know that most of my videos have been filmed outdoors, so I've not needed a studio setup. But today is the first time that I've created a studio. I'm just in my house, but I've sort of put something together. I've got some camera equipment on some white shelves in the background with a coloured LED light. That's what the YouTubers do, isn't it? Anyway, that's what we're going with. So if you've just found this channel because you're interested in iPhones, then please do give the video a like and subscribe, because I'm going to make more videos about the iPhone, about my experience of switching to iPhone and other tech reviews, vlog videos, travel videos, all that good stuff. So if you think you like the sound of that, I would really appreciate it if you could like and subscribe. Okay, so I've now been with Samsung for 10 years. That makes me feel quite old. I got my first Samsung phone, which was the S2 in 2011. And I remember getting that phone. It was such a leap up from anything I'd had before. I think the phone I had before that one was the Nokia N95 8GB. You know, the little slidey phone, which seemed really cool at the time, but looking back, really wasn't that cool. Good phone, but the S2 was so much better. And I've just stuck with Samsung ever since because I've loved their phones. I think they're very capable. I think they are very worthy competitors to the iPhone, but I'm switching. Why? Several reasons. I edit on Mac. I really wouldn't mind an Apple Watch, actually. And I got a good deal on this with my phone provider EE because I get Apple Plus TV for free, I get Apple Music for free, I get unlimited data on this, and I just think the iPhones look really cool. So I am going all in on Apple. I am becoming Apple boy, so we'll see how that goes. I like the Samsungs, I think they look nice, but I don't think they look quite as sexy as the iPhone. So I'm excited to take this out of the box right now and see what we've got. I've actually held this in the Apple store, not this particular phone, but I've been into the Apple store and held the phone. I have to say, they are beautiful machines. And I was worried that maybe it was going to be too big, but I actually compared it to this Samsung S20. I didn't realize how big this phone is, so no worries about the size. If I show you a size comparison, then you can see that I am actually going down in size a little bit with the iPhone. Right, I'm gonna do that thing that all the YouTubers do when they unbox a new iPhone and do the ASMR peeling off of this protective cover. So here we go, are you ready? Oh, why does no one else's sound like that? Thank you, Epidemic Sound. Here we go. The new iPhone 13. It is quite a bit smaller and I think looks a lot nicer than the Samsung. A few people have mentioned how bulgy the cameras are on the back, but I mean, if I'm honest, I don't think they bulge out very much. It's certainly not an issue at all to me. This is a very, very nice looking phone. So I'm going to get this turned on. I'm going to get all my stuff transferred from the S20 over to the iPhone, and I'm going to go and give it some testing. My wife is competing in a triathlon this weekend, so I thought it would be a good opportunity to take this, shoot some video and see what it's capable of. So I think the next shot you will see of me is probably at a ridiculous time in the morning in a car. So I'll see you there. It's 6 AM Sunday morning. Very early get up because Helen's got a triathlon race. So I'm going to bring the iPhone 13 Pro along and just do a little bit of videoing with it. How's the low light looking with the slightly bigger sensor and aperture? We'll find out. It's now 7 AM. We've arrived in Goole. It's just getting a little bit lighter, but it's still pretty low light. I'm filming this on the front-facing camera, so as expected, this one isn't looking as good quality. It's a little mushy, a little grainy. My head is also feeling a little mushy and grainy, so coffee time. So I'm just going to do a little bit of testing on this cinematic mode, even though it's just 1080p. If it looks all right for vlogging, I could maybe upload some 1080p videos, I think. It'd be good if it was 4K, but if it looks nice, I guess we could use some of it. Just having a little walk of the route, testing out the cinematic mode. So hopefully after the fact, I can put Helen in focus and me out of focus, and just play around with it, because at the moment, as I'm looking at it, she is out of focus. Let's focus on Helen. How are you feeling about your race?
Okay, I think.
We'll ask again after. So Helen, do you think you are going to conquer the race today?
I'll try.
Do you get it? Conquer?
Yeah, I get you, Jake.
So this is the selfie camera in normal video mode, not cinematic mode, so we don't get the blurred background. Looks pretty nice, pretty similar to the Samsung, I think. So here is vlogging cinematic mode with the rear-facing camera. Probably looks quite a bit better than the front-facing camera, but you can't see yourself. This is the wide lens on the rear-facing camera, so hopefully we've got a nice bit of blurry background, but again, you can't see yourself when you're filming it. And this is the rear-facing camera on the ultra-wide. Should still be looking pretty nice, and hopefully I'm quite a bit further away from the lens. So I've just been having a look back at some of the footage I've shot, and one of the things I'm most impressed with on this phone, and pretty much on any smartphone these days, is the stabilization. My main vlogging camera, the DSLR, it's a heavy setup, but I'm shooting on a Sony a7S III with the G Master lens, which is a 2.8 aperture. It's a wide 16-35 lens. The problem is with that setup, it's not stabilized, so it's quite jerky compared to this. I do get the nice blurry background with the 2.8 aperture on that, which I don't get on this, but what you lose with that you gain with the stabilization. So which is the better one? Let me know in the comments. And by the way, this front facing camera is a 2.2 aperture lens. So here we are on the 3x optical zoom. There's the wide, and there's the ultra wide. Keep going, you're doing well. And here she comes. Number 60. How you feeling? Well done!
Right, here we go. 60, 60, just about to finish now. That's it, straight over the red mark. Well done, guys.
How you feeling?
The run and the bike definitely felt better.
Yeah?
The swim was so hot.
Is it?
Yeah, the pool was hot.
You look strong though.
Yeah, it felt good.
Yeah, good.
Are you filming me?
Congratulations for coming third. You get a bacon and egg sandwich. Well done.
Excellent.
Okay, I'm back from a weekend of testing the iPhone 13, and I've got to say, this is such a good phone. I've really been enjoying it. I do have to say though, there aren't any mind-blowing differences between the iPhone 13 Pro and my Samsung Galaxy S20. I will say though that I prefer the size of the iPhone Pro. I prefer the balance of it in my hand. It's a little thicker, a little chunkier on the edges, but I like that. I feel like it's easier to grab hold of. I prefer the design, and I like the fact that it isn't quite as long as this. I've realized that I probably don't need a phone screen as big as this, and as I said, this one is even bigger than the iPhone 13 Pro Max. Obviously this isn't the latest Samsung phone. There's the S21, S21 Plus, S21 Ultra. I've been looking at the camera specs, and some of them on the Samsung are better, like it's got 108 megapixels, but the iPhone 13 Pro has a 1.5 aperture on the wide lens. So, you know, overall I think they even out, and it's safe to say that the S20, the S21 and the iPhone 13 Pro They're all great phones with fantastic cameras. So why would you want to upgrade if the camera capabilities are fairly similar? Well, the main selling point that Apple have been hinging their marketing campaign on for the iPhone 13 is cinematic mode, and I've been trying that one out, so let's talk about that. So I've got mixed feelings about the cinematic mode. I love it, I think it's a great fun tool, I've really enjoyed playing around with it. The things I like about it are that you can film your shots, you can film your clip, and you don't have to worry where the focus is. You don't have to tap the screen to choose where you want to be in focus, because you can go in after the fact, after you've finished shooting, and you can choose where you want your focus, whether you want it on the background or the foreground, and you can play around with that. You can have it wherever you like. The other thing you can do after you've finished shooting your clip is choose your depth of field, because it's all simulated. There's no real depth of field. So you can go from an aperture of 2 all the way up to an aperture of 9. So when it's at 2, you're going to have a very blurry background. When it's at 9, everything's pretty much going to be sharp and in focus. But I do like the fact that you've got control over those things. What I did find though was when the aperture was all the way down to 2, this simulated blurry background looked a bit overkill. When it was full fat blur, to me, it didn't look that realistic, it looked fake. Sometimes when you see the iPhone shoot a still in portrait mode and it's got a very blurry background, it looks fake, it doesn't look real, it doesn't look like a DSLR camera lens has taken that photo. So you sort of got the same thing, but in terms of video with cinematic mode. So 2, to me, often in the shooting that I did over the last couple of days, looked too much. I found that the sweet spot for the cinematic mode was somewhere around 4.5, which I think by default seems to be what the iPhone will apply to the video. But I think that still looks good. You've still got enough depth of field, but it still doesn't quite look perfect around people's heads, particularly when they're moving. You can see the software trying to work out where the blur should be. So if you've got stray little wisps of hair, then some of those are going to be blurred when they should be sharp. So it's never going to be a perfect thing. I don't know if this software will ever be able to recreate what we get with a DSLR camera and really expensive lenses. My Sony G Master lens costs more than what the iPhone costs alone. So I think it's slightly ridiculous to think that we're ever going to get those capabilities in an iPhone. But it is a great tool. I did enjoy using it just to demonstrate to you how you can mess around with the focus and the depth of field after you've shot the video. Here are 2 clips. It's the same clip. In the first one here, you can see that I've got it on full fat aperture, full fat blur here. We've got the aperture all the way down to 2, and I think it looks too much. I think the background looks quite nice, but you can see on me around the edges, I don't think it looks quite right. It's too much. But on the same clip where I've then set the aperture to 4.5, you can see that there's less blur in the background, and then when I shift focus to Helen, there's less blur on me, and I think it looks a little bit more realistic. Obviously the software is not having to work quite as hard to pick out the subject from the background, because when it's at that 2 aperture, I think you can definitely see around the edges that it's not really working perfectly. The other thing to note with cinematic mode is you are restricted to 30 frames per second at 1080p. I prefer to shoot at 4K 24 frames per second. I think a lot of YouTubers, a lot of filmmakers will certainly want to be shooting 4K, and a lot of filmmakers will be wanting to shoot at 24 frames per second. In cinematic mode, you don't have those options. Whether that might come in an update, I'm not sure, but just worth noting, because I think a lot of people who are wondering whether they can rely on cinematic mode on the iPhone to completely replace a DSLR camera for vlogging, I'm not really sure that most filmmakers or YouTubers will think it will replace it. If I'm out shooting a video and it's been planned, and I've got my Sony a7S III, which is what I'm shooting this video on now, and I've got my Sony G Master 16-35 lens on, and of course I can shoot that at 4K 24 frames per second. But if I'm in situations where something happens that isn't planned, if something happens spontaneously and I want some spur of the moment filming, then I can see in those situations it would be better to have cinematic mode than have nothing at all, because you could still get some nice off-the-cuff footage that has that depth of focus. Having said that, the cameras without cinematic mode are still good. We've got a 1.5 aperture on the wide angle lens. We've got 2.2 on the selfie camera, which still looks great. Pretty much the same as this. This is a 2.2 aperture on the front-facing camera as well. And I would say between the two of these, if I'm vlogging, they pretty much look the same. I wouldn't say the iPhone 13 Pro improves the front camera vlogging any more than this does. So for me, there's not really an improvement there. And if I am just vlogging off the cuff, I think maybe I would still prefer to use the front-facing camera so I can shoot 4K 24 frames per second. Yes, you're losing the blurred background, you're losing some of that bokeh, but just for those quick spontaneous shots, does it really matter that much when you're vlogging? The other thing is about my Sony a7S III and the G Master lens, it's not stabilized, so I can't really move around much, and if I do, it is quite jerky. With this, it is very, very stabilized. So as I mentioned in the video, you get the stabilization out of the iPhone, whereas with my DSLR vlogging setup, I don't get that stabilization. I could put it on a gimbal, but then you're going even further into the territory of the time it takes to shoot something, planning. Sometimes you just want to pull your camera out and get some nice shots in a short space of time. I'm going to play around with cinematic mode a little bit more. I'm going to work out if there's a place for it in my vlogging when I'm using my phone, or if I just prefer to use the normal cameras without the simulated blurry background. All right, so if having a great camera on your smartphone is something that is important to you and you're considering whether to upgrade from one of the latest Samsung phones or other Android phones to an iPhone 13 Pro, based on the camera capabilities alone, I don't think there are enough differences to justify going onto the iPhone. The main difference is the cinematic mode, but at the moment, I just don't think that is in a place that is good enough to justify making the switch. But of course, there are many other reasons why you might want to own an iPhone. The way that they look, I certainly think they look better than the Samsungs. I love the feel of it in my hand. It's a little heavier, but I like that because it feels a bit more planted. I think the screen maybe looks marginally better than on the Samsung, even though this is still a fantastic screen. I like the MagSafe options. You can see I've gone for the wallet on the back of here. I just love how it looks. I love the Apple logo. I love the feel of the wallet. I think it's sleek. I like that I can take it off and use it as a wallet on its own without it being on the iPhone. It supports the Find My function, so the iPhone, it doesn't track this, but it will let you know whereabouts the wallet became detached from your phone, should it become detached and you don't know where it is. So I think that's quite a useful function. So none of those things are that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things when it comes to owning a phone. So am I glad I switched from my Samsung to an iPhone 13 Pro? Yes, 100%. I love the look of it. I love the functionality of it. I love that it talks to my iMac and my MacBook Pro. I like the fact that my dream of owning an Apple Watch can finally come true. So for all those reasons, I'm glad I made the switch. I was due a new phone anyway, but if you've only just got a new phone, then hopefully this video has been of some use for you when it comes to deciding whether or not it's worth upgrading to the iPhone 13 Pro, or maybe you want to go another year and upgrade to the iPhone 14 when that one comes out, because maybe we might get that 4K 24 frames per second cinematic mode. Maybe we might get a USB-C charging port on the phone. This is still the Apple Lightning. Who knows? So those are my initial thoughts on the iPhone 13 Pro. I'm probably going to do another video further down the line when I've had a bit more experience with this phone and share my thoughts on that. If you've got this phone or any of the other iPhone 13s, please let me know in the comments down below. If you liked this video and you found it useful, please give it a like, and if you liked it, why not subscribe as well? Thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next video.